All right, a couple more things to discuss. So in the last module, we began discussing the first major project you guys are going to be working on, where there are where it's an interactive story, and you may want to have things like you could use hyperlinks to connect the story, but you also may want to have something like a button that could be used as a link that people could click on. So we can actually create buttons very simply in web pages by using something called the button tag. So it's an HTML tag, and you just write button. Put in the text. This is going to be the text that's going to be the label of the button. And what I'm going to do, come into here. There's my button. Okay. Now it's kind of a boring looking button, so what I'm going to do is add a little bit of style here. So we could do things. First thing I'm going to do is probably give it a more interesting background color. So let's do background color yellow. And let's set the color of the text to red. Okay. I don't really like that background border, so I'm actually going to set the border to 0 to get rid of that. And let's make the text a little bigger. I also want to put a little more padding. I feel like it could use a little more space, so maybe like 15 pixels. And maybe even I can even add a little bit of a width too. 100 pixels maybe. And maybe a little more. 200. Okay. And maybe for fun, let's put a little we'll round out the borders here. 25 pixels maybe. Okay. So there's my button. Okay. Now at the moment it doesn't actually do anything because it is a button. And to be honest, if we knew JavaScript, we could write some JavaScript that would make it work. Unfortunately, we don't know JavaScript yet. So what I'm going to do is we can do something like this, where I'm going to actually put this button within an A tag. And let's use this button. And I'm going to make it go to Chabot College. Okay, so let's take that, and this is going to go to Chabot College. Click to go to Chabot College. Actually, I don't know if this is going to fit with the width. Let's just do Chabot College. That might be a little better. Save. All right, and so now when I click on it, it works because it's really the label of a hyperlink. Okay. All right, so that's one thing you can do. Another thing is, we in the story project you guys are going to be working on, it's an interactive story, and a lot of times when you're creating a story, the button that you see helps you understand what's going on. So for instance, like, when I see this cursor, I get the idea that I am clicking on something. Or, if I was in like a web application, if my cursor were to change into something, see how my cursor changed here into a like a crosshair? This lets me know that I'm having a particular effect on what I'm doing, which is being more precise. Okay, so your your cursor itself can convey information to your audience, and that's something we can also actually affect with CSS. So, here's my page. And I have a bunch of buttons here. And I'm just going to preview this in a browser. And by default, I'm using like the button tag, and I have little buttons here. And you can see my hand is turning into the little Mickey Mouse glove here. That's kind of the standard. But you can actually change it, and we can talk about different types of cursors here. So I have things, the default is the auto, which is just that sort of Mickey Mouse hand. Let's say I wanted to turn it into a crosshair. You could select the tag, however you want to select it, and then use cursor and then the name or the type of cursor you wanted. So for instance, this is button 1. I have an ID, and I'm going to go to button 1, and I'm going to say cursor and crosshair. Okay. So what that's going to do is when I'm over my button, see how it turns into a crosshair? Okay. Another one I could do is something like the not allowed. Not allowed puts up a little like do not enter type sign. So I'm going to do button 2, cursor, not allowed. When I put this over, you can see it's putting up the do not enter sign, right? I'm not going to go through all of them, but hopefully, you can try a couple of these out, the ones that might seem a little more interesting to you. Maybe I would do, let's do the progress one. So, button 3, cursor, progress. And I click over this. Okay, I get a little progress one. So it's a little sort of spinning circle here. In fact, you can actually put your own, you can make your own custom cursor. So here in this example, I actually have a little picture. And this is going to become my custom cursor. So I'm going to go back, I'm just going to get rid of this, and let's do cursor. And if you want to have your own custom cursor, what we're going to do is, sorry, I got to look up the, gotta look up the code. It's been a while since I've done it. I thought it was in my slides. It's probably up here, actually. Yeah. It's URL and then auto, so I knew that. All right, so what I'm going to do is get rid of that. URL, put in the name of the file, which in this case is unicorn.png. You probably want something that's like a PNG or a GIF, so you can have a transparent background. And then you have to say where the image is going to be located in relationship to the cursor, whether the image is in the middle of the cursor is in the middle of the image, or whether it's at the top left of the image. Auto puts it in the center. So what's going to happen now is when I put my cursor here, oops, did I save? Sorry, I wrote this correctly. Unicorn.png. Oops. Sorry, you do that, not, yeah, and then I put a comma there. Okay. That should work now, I believe. Yep, there you go. All right, so there's my unicorn cursor. Now, the problem is it's only going to work over this particular button, but what if I wanted the cursor all of the time? Well, remember, the body represents the entire page. So if I was to say, set this to the body, or another way to do it would be using the star selector, like we talked about earlier today. Since the star selector represents everything, no matter where it is, I'm always applying the star selector. Okay. Last thing I'm going to talk about is what is referred to as a pseudo class. Okay. So you might notice if I was to go to ChabotCollege.com, okay, and if I was to go here, you'll notice that when I put my cursor above something that's interactive, like a hyperlink or a button, a lot of times it'll change. See how it's changing color from that blue to a darker blue, or it's adding an underline. Okay, so this is what is referred to as a pseudo class. What a pseudo class does is a pseudo class stylizes a state of an HTML link or an HTML item. Okay. Now what does state mean? Well, a state is, it's still the same object but in different states. So I want you to think about a light switch. You can have one light switch, but it can have two states, on and off, right? Or if I have this box here, my box can be open or closed. Open or closed. I have the open state and I have the closed state. Okay. So some objects have multiple states, and what a pseudo class allows you to do is to stylize that particular state. All right. So I'm going to go back, and here I have, I'm just going to preview this, and I have basically an unordered list of some hyperlinks. All right, I'm just going to blow this up so it's easier to see. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to stylize this. I'm going to use the A tag, and let's set the color to, I don't know. Let's set it to orange, and let's just get rid of that underline. Okay, so all of my links or hyperlinks are going to turn, orange. Okay. What I want to do is I want to create what's called a hover state. A hover state means when I put my cursor above it, it will change styles so that I can tell that I'm hovering above it. So the way that you show so this is going to be a pseudo class of the A tag, because the A tag is the main tag, and we're trying to select the hover state of the A tag. So the way that you would show that is you would say the name of the tag first, colon, and then the name of the state. In this case, the state is called hover. Make sure there's no spaces between this and the colon and the name of the state. It's all sort of one long word. And I'm going to set this to red. So what I'm saying here is this is how hyperlinks or A tags look by default. But if you put the hyperlink into the hover state, it's going to change its font color from orange to red. All right, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to refresh. And you're going to notice that when I put my cursor above, I'm changing the font color. Okay. You can even change things that aren't even part of the original. So I can actually add like a background color if I wanted to. Okay. All right, so that's a hover state. There's also something called a visited state. A visited state is when you click on let's say you had a list of links and you click on one and you follow it to the web page that it goes to, and you come back. That now has made your hyperlink a visited hyperlink. And the idea is that it changes color. Defaultly, traditionally it changes to purple to show that you have visited that link. So we can stylize that. That is the visited state. And the way I would show that is using the A and then visited. So I'm going to set that when someone clicks on a link, follows it, and comes back, that the link changes from orange to green. All right, so let's try it. I'm going to click here on Google, come back, and it turns green. I'm going to click here on Bing, it follows it, comes back, and it turns green. Click on Yahoo, follows it, comes back. Okay, so that's my visited link color. Finally, we have something called an active color or an active state. Active state is when you click on your hyperlink, for a split second, it will actually change color to something else. And I'm going to have it set to magenta. Okay, so what you're going to have to watch. It happens really quickly, but watch what happens when I click. For a split second, it's going to turn magenta and then it's going to go to its site. Oops, let's try that again. See how I turned magenta there for a second? Okay. So that is the active link, okay? And so every, not every tag has pseudo classes assigned to it. In fact, many don't. But, the A tag has a few. And in fact, most tags can accept a hover state, which means that if you go above it, it will hover and change. So I might want to do that with a button, just to make the button look a little more interesting. So I have this button here, and I'm going to stylize it. So I'm going to set the color to yellow, and let's remove that border. And let's give it a little bit of padding. And let's make the text a little bigger. Let's see how that looks. Okay. And I want to set this that when I put my cursor above it, the background color is going to change. And so will the font color. So I could set this to hover. And let's change the background to red. And the color to white. All right. So this is the normal state of my button. This is the hover state. Normal, hover, normal, hover. So the hover state is useful because it makes it easy to see what we are clicking on, right? So if you go back and look, it's see how I'm getting this orange, kind of gold background here, okay? Or if I put my cursor above something, it changes to a different color. So it goes from that light gray to a medium gray, or I'm adding in this underline here. All of that can be done using a hover state. Okay, so I want you guys to try that out. That was exercise 13, 14, and 15.